Welcome to Real Time BI with Kevin and Stewart. Second episode, woohoo! We made it to number 2. We didn't get cut by the networks after our first episode. After they saw our pilot episode and said, no way. Of course, it helps that there's no actual networks involved here.
They did have some notes.
So today we have the ever lovely Stewart Bryson up there in the corner, looking very leprechaun-ish today. With his lovely green shirt there. And with us we also have Tim Vlamis and Dan Vlamis from Vlamis Software. How you doing, guys?
Great.
Vlamis Software is a BI and data warehousing expert shop. We're having them on today to hear their all kinds of opinions about the BI space. They speak at conferences all the time. They've published books. They're also Oracle OLAP experts, so we're going to tackle that topic a little bit today. And visualization experts as well. I understand you guys are going to be speaking at the BI Forum here in a couple weeks on visualization.
Yep.
So, so that's actually the first topic that I wanted to kind of dive into, because I don't know about you, but when I work with customers, it's very frustrating sometimes that when you sort of design out dashboards, that customers, that all they ever seem to want is, just give me a dashboard with a giant report on it, 20 columns wide, 10,000 rows long, put 15 prompts at the top, and I'm good. And that's my BI solution. I'm curious how you guys, sort of work with that, and how you help to educate customers on why visualization can make a better BI experience.
Well, I'll let Tim jump in, because Tim is probably more passionate about this topic. So Tim, let you have first crack.
Well, yeah. First of all, I think if you do a giant report with prompts, that's a step in the right direction, right? Because too often they have, here are our 78 reports that we want replicated as step 1 in the implementation, and they want to do a separate page on each, and you're like, well, we have this really cool prompt feature that we can put, and developing that interaction with the tool, I think, is incredibly important. And so because prompts haven't necessarily been around, or they've been in filtered definitions or something like that the BI users had to go to IT for, they're not as used to interacting with the tool itself. In terms of, how do we create patterns and pictures that represent data, it is very important that we take time to figure out, okay, what are we trying to say? And basically you have 2 different functions. You have exploration, which is trying to uncover or develop insights on the data. That's very different from a visualization perspective, as when we're trying to discover something, versus when we're trying to tell a story that we already know. So explanation, if you will. And so it's kind of developing that single source of the truth. How do we create coherence in the organization so that we all understand about where we are when we're looking at the same data set, right? So it's a challenge thinking it through, and it takes some time, and it takes balancing priorities, because different parts of the organization will necessarily want to focus on different things.
So am I alone in this? Have you guys experienced the same frustration that I have in that area, where we've got this tool that has so many capabilities, and here's my giant Excel page?
Well, I think one of the things that makes this especially hard for customers is, in some ways, maybe they're not doing the requirements analysis the right way, or they're doing too much focus on requirements analysis, and it seems like the requirements turn into a list of reports. In jumping on what Tim was saying, and so what they do is they say, well, we need these 17 reports, and when you look at the definitions, it's really more like 5 reports. And just if they were to accept that this one over here looks very similar to this one right here, and all you need to do is insert a prompt in between the two, or some way of selecting between the two, and they don't think in terms of a dashboard display or a computer display of the data. They're still in the mode of paper-based reports. And I think that's part of the problem is we get too much where people are focused on paper-based reports instead of what the computer can do for them. And it's really just a matter of they don't know what the system is capable of. So how can they develop the appropriate list of reports and requirements analysis, and for that matter, even graphs, and that quite often ignored in all of the requirements is graphics.
So is this our bad as consultants in that you know, from a scope perspective, maybe we're focusing too much on what are the reports you want to see, and maybe you guys aren't doing that, and we try not to do that, but it always ends up being a discussion about how many reports do you want. It's even the wrong paradigm for this tool.
Yeah.
And I think maybe even as consultants that we sometimes push this. I mean, as hard as I say that we try not to, it comes down to what are you expecting from a delivery perspective at the end of the day or at the end of the project. And a report is a handy container for a certain list of attributes. And maybe it's mea culpa to a certain degree in trying to rein in scope. Yeah. And maybe we need to, you know, kind of have that man in the mirror moment where we say, all right, you know what, this is what we're going to, you know, propose. And it is that there is going to be a dashboard that we're going to develop for you with some of the attributes that we've collected. And then we're going to work off of that. Or we're going to take this sample app and have a look at that and kind of browse through it and say, you know, can you guys see yourselves consuming the data in this way?
So what do you do? What do you do when, you know, because I've had some of those conversations. You know, we'll sit users down in a room and we'll go through sort of here's what's possible, and you know, look at all this, and you know, you get a lot of you know, blank stares. Oh, I don't really look at it that way. You know, that looks nice, but you know, I just need these 10 reports. You know, any ideas for how to get past that, or is it you know, that maybe we're just still in an age where the printed report, as you said, Dan, still carries just too much weight, and we're not ready to move beyond that. You know, I don't know. Thoughts there?
I do think that the part of it is it's what they're used to. And I think in some ways, per what Stewart was saying, we need to help educate them as to what's possible. And sure, we can go in and show from Sample App, for instance, this is what's available. But what I find is sometimes when you do actually a good job of showing what the software is capable of, you get more of a deer in the headlights stare of, okay, I'm not sure what to do with all that. It's too much. So they're not able to absorb it. And I think what maybe that turns into is one of the things that we've tried to do in some cases is basically say, okay, this is what it's capable of now. Go and play with this for a little bit. And then we're going to come back and ask you questions after you've played with it. And so there's a little bit of, you need to know what the system is capable of, and you need to have some experience with it before you can effectively say, this is what I want.
So I'm going to go ahead and plead my case and express my frustrations a bit, okay?
And disagree with me?
You know, Sample App included. Sample App is awesome, and I've spent a lot of time on it, but it's designed to show off features and functionality.
True.
It is not designed to help explain a business case. And so even with the very basic visualizations in Sample App, they don't always make sense. Why? Because it's a demo data set that adds up perfectly to around $50 million over 3 years, and you know, 20 million of it is in this, you know, vertical, and 18 million, and it's obvious that it's a sample. Yeah, but it's not real, and so therefore it's difficult to get away from. Here are the 27 things you can do with OBIEE, and rather than talking about what business insight are we trying to derive, what type of you know, what are we trying to accomplish with this tool, we don't have that conversation, and as we should, in discovery sessions, right?
I think
so. It's changing the nature of the way we interact with clients also. I think that's very important, and we need to step back from what does a tool do to what do you want to understand.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think there's a basic, outside of just visualizations, this looks great, what can you do with it? There's also a basic paradigm that I think a lot of our customers don't get, and that is high level to detail, right? And they immediately are used to seeing detail reports.
Yep.
And they want to go to a page and see detail reports. And I know that, Tim, I know you could probably quote statistics on how many rows of data a person can actually comprehend at a time and that sort of thing. If you look at Stephen Few and some of the things said there, is that the first thing, whether it's a pie chart or a graph or whatever, it's high level to detail that I think is the first step. And if you can teach them to come into a dashboard at a high level, it'll fix a lot of things. It'll fix performance, or in a lot of cases, it'll help with performance. It'll help with entry pages. It'll help with even where to start. And that's the hardest thing, because they're used to having this list of detail reports. So, I think that's one of the first steps, no matter what you're using, visualization you're using, high level to detail. And I think once you get that across, you can go a long way to bringing them along on what could be a very interesting ride.
Yeah. So let's shift topics a little bit. That's an interesting segue into another topic that I want to talk about. And we've got Exalytics that was just released, for example. Stewart, you were just talking about high level to detail. One of the thrusts of Exalytics is the summary advisor building aggregates in ×10, looking at that high level information first. And one of the things that it's supposed to bring is the promise of improved visualizations and more focus on visualizations and speed of thought visualizations. If we've got a user base that's still in the report world, if we've got users who are still trying to always go right to the details first, is Exalytics going to be a hard sell from a visualization standpoint? Is that the feature?
I can tell you what I think is very powerful and promising. I'm really excited about, and that is the small sparkline style graph, because it is more in a table setting, right? And therefore, in some ways, it looks more like a report. And so the ability to have a small data picture that is relatively dense and can carry a meaning but not precise detail, then we can interact with it, we can drill into it, we can explore, we can do all kinds of things, right? That's very cool. So
So you see that as like a sort of a way to bridge, instead of a dashboard that's got a pie chart here and a line bar chart here and a bar chart here and another radar chart or whatever here, having a more tabular looking view but that still has visualizations baked into the cells of the table is a way to kind of take people along slowly. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, it provides a natural trend line, if you will, and it is easily understandable. It's not a different type of visualization, if you will. You just see, is the bar trending up or are the little bars trending down? And it's pretty intuitive, I think. It will take a while for people to get used to accepting or absorbing the information in that fashion, but the natural bar graph, if you will, series of bar graphs going across, is relatively intuitive. I think it's going to take a while for people to get used to it, though.
Yeah, well, Tufty likes them, and anything Tufty likes is good. Stephen Few likes them, and anything Stephen Few likes is good. So,
obviously Excel, the 2010 version of Excel sort of introduced this notion of, spark lines and whatnot. So as that, maybe hits more mainstream, that might bring people along as well.
But what I find is that, Kevin, people are used to seeing reports in a lot of our customers, and you can show graphs, and people will nod their head and say, yeah, we should look at this more often with graphs. But they're just so used to seeing numbers, it's hard to even get across to them that, okay, the numbers on there, it's not that important. The number of significant figures on this, by the time you average in all those orders that are not really real orders, they're people placing placeholder orders and such, they're just married to this amount of precision that comes with a report that's really inappropriate.
I think Kevin mentioned the real culprit there, not meaning to, and it's Excel. Now I don't want to throw Excel over the cliff or anything, but I think what people are used to interacting with Excel, and you've got to convince them, right, that you're not going to consume the data in this way. You're not going to take 100,000 rows and prune it down in the desktop tool. I think that's one of the paradigms that you've got to address first. Excel's a great discovery tool, but as long as it's part of sort of the requirements and not the actual consumption, and people are used to having to go and get the data themselves and do things with it. And a lot of them are quite proud of the fact of what they've been able to do with Excel over the years.
Oh yeah.
But what we need to do is take that and say, this is great. You've done great work here. Let's make this available to everybody, and let's see what you've done here, and let's see if we can't, reproduce it. And I think really, you get buy-in when you deliver, right? So you're going to have to deliver something. You have to find a way to show them how it can be done before they'll say, you know what, let's do the rest of them this way.
I'm not sure that Excel itself, Stewart, is the problem. I think it's just the way they've been used to interacting with the data. And I think just we all think that that's Excel because that's been the prevalent use in the marketplace. It's the
you might be right.
feeling like I have to have everything right there on my own desktop. And the way, when people share the report around, they ultimately export it to Excel, and then they email a XLS file, right? How many times have we seen BI tools as glorified data pullers, and then just emailed around? That's what
ever.
I think is going on.
Well, I didn't mean just Excel, Dan. I guess it could have also be Access.
Okay, okay.
Sorry, couldn't help.
Yeah, yeah. There's an interesting study out there that talks about what percentage of spreadsheets have mistakes in them in the formulas.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very, very high. I think I don't remember the precise figure, but it's approaching 30%. And so that's scary from a compliance perspective, from many, many perspectives, right? The fact that you have all this ability to manipulate data within a desktop tool is great until you mistype a formula and you make a mistake, and then you're doing more harm than good. And we see that a lot.
We had a customer. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
No, we had a customer at a particular customer that just had a policy that is the major stakeholder said nothing generated in Excel do I take seriously. All right, so not that I don't take it seriously, but I don't consider it the truth. So and it went a long way to pushing all of those requirements into the RPD in a lot of cases, or into the reports. So I think that if you have major stakeholders saying, look, we need data to be QA'd, it needs to be real, it needs to be true, we need to make sure it's true.
So it's interesting because that the conversation has kind of moved to Excel here, because Essbase is really the sort of holy grail for dealing with the Excel problem, right? It's supposed to be the spreadsheet world, but sort of eliminate a lot of the problems of the spreadsheet. And so Oracle acquired Hyperion, and they got Essbase, which also is a OLAP solution that is can be really fast and really powerful. Now with Exalytics, we see, okay, now we've got another sort of solution for aggregate in times 10 in the analytical world, which sort of used to be more transactional. But the funny thing is that Oracle's always had a sort of OLAP type solution called Oracle OLAP, and used to be called, I think, Express, right? Is Oracle OLAP like the sort of ugly stepchild, black sheep of the family? Why do we sort of keep seeing them sort of move to other forms of this fast aggregation problem? Dealing with that. Any thoughts on that, since you guys have kind of written a book on OLAP?
Yeah.
Well, I would say in terms of why you don't see it more. I hate to say it, but I think a lot of the reason is frankly political. It's not technical as much. It's that the group that is controlling the BI space, the BI product set, if you will, wants their own database. And that could, there's a good solution in the Oracle database, but it's not controlled by them. And also that has to do with, really, it's not just for that reason, it's the openness argument. There are a lot of people that are customers of Oracle that don't like a closed methodology of, gee, if you want to store something in the database, you better own the Oracle database. And one of the things that Essbase has done very effectively is say, hey, we're open to wherever you want to store your data. We don't care if it's in the Oracle database. It can pull from DB2, SQL Server, even Excel, Access, XML files, all sorts of things. Yeah. And that openness issue has been very effective in breaking down the door to those organizations to say, no, I'm not going to put everything in the Oracle database. But I think at times Oracle has not noticed that because they like this openness argument, that they ignore the fact that yeah, you've got this very effective OLAP tool inside the Oracle database that you could use for instance, the aggregates. And what I saw very interestingly in the whole times 10 argument in terms of being able to store the aggregates, what you do is you come back to the same old problem of we need to pre-calculate a lot of these aggregates. And that's the problem that times 10 is solving in my mind, is being able to compute that. And you're exactly right, Kevin. They did have a very good solution with Oracle OLAP. They also have a very good solution with Essbase and be able to calculate these aggregates. And I think in many cases that can do very effectively in handling the whole aggregate space problem.
Yeah, but if I'm a customer with the Oracle database and I have ODI, for instance, I can connect to anything that Essbase can. So loading it in the Oracle database for pre-calculation into Oracle OLAP might be, I don't think technically it's another step really, because you got to load it into the Essbase database, which is a database, and pre-calculate. So it's not really. I think it is that, or if had Oracle stuck to their guns with OWB or whatever the path was to have an open, free, or licensed with the database data integration tool with the Oracle database, we might not have seen this. I don't know. Do you have to pay additional for the data connectors for Essbase? I'm not certain.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're both databases.
Well, I think
direction.
Good.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think there's another dynamic involved as well. And I think there's a big part of the database community that is focused on data, and it's focused on the processing of data and the management of it, and not as much on analytics, not as much on how do we use this information within the business, not just send it off somewhere or make it available.
Right.
And so you have Oracle OLAP, you have Oracle Spatial, you have Oracle Data Mining, and now our Enterprise. And you have these very, very powerful analytical capabilities of the database, but the majority of the community is not, they just don't naturally think that way. They don't start there. And so, and I think there's a bit of an evangelism issue that we have with, the heavy-duty Oracle database-centric community, and how do we bring them along into BI when they have their hands full with, partitioning and rack and optimization and provisioning and all kinds of other issues that go with the DBA function. So, and somehow maybe it's on us too. We just haven't been able to bring the community around to leveraging it for the betterment of the business from an analytics, hardcore analytics perspective. I don't know if you guys agree or not, but
absolutely, and that's a great sort of point to end on. I got to stop there because I need to leave room here for Stewart's segment called Buy and Sell. So great conversation, lots of good topics there, and Stewart, I'll turn it over to you.
Wow, that was we're already there, huh? That's great.
We are.
Time just flies with you guys.
That's great. It's good conversation.
Good thing somebody's watching the clock.
Yeah.
Can't wait. This could be a 4-hour show, right?
this is pretty simple. I'm just going to read a statement, and I'll most likely refuse to give any clarification. And then you just tell me, are you buying this or selling it? Okay?
Oh.
And you give a little detail about why you're buying and selling it, but this is supposed to be kind of quick hit. So tell me why, but let's keep it moving. So we've already gotten to a few of these. So table views belong on a dashboard. You buying or selling that?
I'm buying.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah.
You start with you, Tim.
No, I'm buying because of some of the new things that are coming out, and because let's take pivot heat maps as an example, right? So the biggest mistake people make with pivot heat maps is they alphabetize things. They don't have any relationship in terms of what's next to what, right? So anytime you do that, you have to think it through. So
Okay.
as long as you're using the sort features in tables, very powerful, very good. Keep them on there.
All
You're
right.
just
Dan?
Yeah.
All right, table views, I just see that as just another presentation of data, and dashboards should use all of them. So yeah, absolutely, they belong in a dashboard.
Mr. McGinley?
I'll go ahead and buy two. No, yeah. I mean, to Dan's point, it's just another tool. I guess used properly would be what I would say.
Okay, so buying or selling
So
this?
wait a minute, one last thing, real quick.
Okay.
If I can use, I'd use pivot tables as often or more often than table views. I didn't know if your question was instead of.
Sorry. Yeah.
I like pivot tables. Go ahead.
So BI mobility will exceed basic desktop use in 5 years. You buying or selling that? Tim?
I'll
I'm
start.
selling.
I'm
I
selling.
don't, yeah.
Nope.
Sorry.
Mr. Mobility?
I'm buying it. I'm buying. No, gosh, it's really hard to say right now. But you're giving me a 5-year window. That's a long time.
I agree.
3 years would have been a tougher conversation, but 5 years is a long time. Gartner is predicting, within 2 years, about a third of BI consumed on tablet devices. How you measure that, I don't know, but I think in 5 years, I think that's a realistic possibility.
Okay. So you buying or selling this? Oracle should continue doing the superhero-based marketing. So now they've got the Avengers symbol in the data center. They had, I'm looking at the poster right up here of the Iron Man.
Iron Man.
For engineered systems. So Tim, they should continue with the superhero-themed marketing.
No. I'm selling.
I'll buy because I think it's fun. I think it's fun. Nothing hurtful about it, and it just provides. It's just a gimmick. It doesn't make any difference in the end of the game. I'm buying it because I think it's fun.
Okay.
I'm buying because I have 4 kids, 3 boys, and that Iron Man poster is on one of my kids' bedroom doors right now. So it's a great thing to bring home from a conference. So I'm buying.
My sons love Oracle. They don't even know what it is because it was so. All right. So end users should define dashboard design, not requirements, but design. Tim?
No, I'm selling that. There are some end users out there that are pretty savvy, and we've worked with some recently that were really, really good. So I would be fine with them. But most of them don't. They haven't studied it. They don't know. They don't understand the trade-offs. And as always, there's not right and wrong answers. There's just trade-offs. Which problems do you want to have?
All right.
So
I'm selling as well. I think that there's a lot of important features in dashboard design, and they should influence it, but they should not design it.
Kevin?
I'm going to sell as well. I'm going to actually talk about this over the next 2 weeks at the BI Forum. I don't want to put my cards on the table yet, but
Okay.
I'm selling.
How much time we got left, Kevin? How many more?
We're right about there, but if you got another one, go for it.
All right.
One more.
Yeah, BI developers should be able to treat the database as a black box. Tim?
I think I'm buying.
Okay.
I'm buying that. Yeah.
Why are you buying that?
Why am I buying that? Because I think there's a lot of work involved in putting things together for the effective consumption of others, and sometimes it looks like a black box, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine if you have algorithms performing things in the database.
Okay.
I'm buying it based on the word should. This is one of those, which question? They should be able to do that. And I think the reality is, with where we are with today's infrastructure and today's design, I think it's very hard to design something that can be treated as a black box. So they should be able to. I'm not sure we're there most of the time.
Okay.
Performance is important.
Two very good answers. I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell because I think that understanding the data and the structures and what's going on in the data, I think is an extremely valuable thing. And I don't know that I would want to sort of give up that knowledge and understanding, even if we maybe should.
Right.
What if it was a really cool R script?
Then all the more that I would want to know what's going on in that really cool R script, because it's just another neat new thing to know about. All right, so great segment, good conversation. We got to wrap up there. I want to thank Tim Vlamis and Dan Vlamis from Vlamis Software for being on the show today. Thank you guys very much. Great conversation. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, I want to echo those comments. A lot of respect for Vlamis Software over the years, and it was really a pleasure. Although I see you guys a lot, it's a pleasure to have you guys on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for inviting us.
You're welcome. And again, we'll be back in another month with two more guests. For Mr. Stewart Bryson, I'm Kevin McGinley, and thanks for watching.